So welcome everyone to our March Sustainability Coffee Chat. My name is Carly Rice. I am the Sustainability Coordinator here at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. And this is a program we've been running for a while now, like I was just saying to Kathryn. It's just a nice kind of informal way to get together, to connect, to learn a little bit of something. So if it's your first time here, welcome and thank you for being here. And I saw some returning faces as well. So with that, we are going to get into our topic here. If I can advance my slides, there we go. So our topic today is local climate action. We actually did some crowdsourcing of potential topical ideas, and this was something that kept coming up. I think folks are really interested in what's going on locally, and also ways that they can potentially get involved. So hopefully we can touch on a little bit of that today. We've got some wonderful speakers from three different areas. We have Diamond Houston from Minneapolis Climate Action. We have Bharat by Balyan. Can you help me out? I'm so sorry.
Yep, you got it, Balyan.
Balyan, thank you. From the City of Minneapolis, does some sustainability work for the city, and Kathryn Ringham from Elders Climate Action. So I think we've got some great perspectives today. And with that, we can go ahead and get started. Um, if it's all right, we can just go kind of in the order that they are on this screen. Diamond, are you all right to hop in and go first?
Yeah, I can start. I don't mind.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share, and you can take over screen sharing if you have any slides or visuals.
I don't have any slides or visuals. I do have my coworker Elena Stites on the call with me. She's going to talk about the community solar garden side, and
Okay.
I'll cover the green workforce training program side. So I'll just go ahead and start.
Thank
Minneapolis
you.
Climate Action offers green workforce training programs. Some of our program objectives are providing comprehensive training in renewable energy technologies. We also equipped our participants with the skills needed for green jobs. We support the transition to a sustainable economy, and we foster community engagement in workforce development. We have training modules. Some of our training modules are solar panel installation and maintenance, energy efficiency auditing, and sustainable agriculture practices. So the three classes that we have going on right now are HVAC. Actually, it's four. It's HVAC, Hemp Creek, which is the new class that we're offering with Cliff the gardener. We have solar installation, and we have the electrical here. Some of our eligibility requirements are, of course, a high school diploma, 18 and older, some interest in renewable energy and sustainability, and an ability to commit to a full training program. We do have an application process. It would be simply an online application form, submit a resume and cover letter, and attend an interview with the program coordinator, which would be me, myself, or one of the instructors. We work with our partners to incorporate these opportunities into our classrooms and youth programs. The goal is to help students connect with what they're learning in the classrooms to the environment they live in, the understanding of stability, the idea of environmental justice, and green career opportunities. They get certifications and credentials with the NABCEP Photovoltaic Associates Program, the OSHA 10 and OSHA 30, the BPI Building Science Principles Program. We do first aid and CPR certificates, as well as Iron Ridge and registered unlicensed electricians. We try to target people of color, women, and low income individuals for green career pathways. And that's kind of what our green workforce training program is about. Elena, if you wanted to hop on with the other side of our Minneapolis climate
Yeah.
action.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Diamond. Can you guys hear me?
I
Yes,
can
you're
Okay,
good.
great. Yeah, so alongside our green workforce training, we also offer a community solar program. For those of you who don't know about community solar, essentially how it works is that there are established solar arrays built in the community. Our two solar arrays are located in Minneapolis. One of them is on top of Emerge Recycling, and the other one is on top of North High School. Um, and how community solar works is per a statute passed in 2013, Xcel Energy is required to purchase the energy generated by those solar panels. So it's kind of like a third energy or power provider. So those arrays are built and they're established. And then we involve community members. And how that works is that community members come and subscribe to the gardens. And what that means is that they are owning shares of the electricity generated by the garden rather than owning like a solar panel per se. So each month, the solar garden generates energy, and that energy is owned by those community members who are subscribed to the garden. And so because of that statute, Xcel Energy then purchases that energy from the subscribers rather than from like the garden owners. So how that appears is a bill credit on the subscriber's energy bill each month. It's a really great program. People are really excited about it. We like to say that you don't even have to care about the environment or sustainability. All you have to care about is really just saving money on your energy bill, which most people are super pumped about. Yeah, so we have those two established arrays. One of them is fully subscribed. The other one we're still working on getting fully subscribed. It's about like 78% subscribed right now, I want to say. Um, so those are our community solar programs. We're working on building another community solar garden on top of Repowered Recycling, which I believe is located in St. Paul. So that one's in the queue for us right now. So that's one side of our community solar garden program. And the other side is brand new to Minneapolis Climate Action. We recently launched the program. It is nothing like that's been done before. We are working with the City of Minneapolis to launch this program. And essentially, how it will work is we're collaborating with Minneapolis neighborhoods to own a community solar garden. So it'd be a co-ownership model. Um, and that's different from having the arrays that we have right now because those arrays are owned by a solar developer. So rather than having that solar developer own the projects, it will be the Minneapolis neighborhoods. So then when those arrays are generating energy and they're generating revenue, that revenue is flowing back to the Minneapolis neighborhoods, which is really exciting. We are just launching it now, and we're in talks with all of the neighborhoods. So we're really, really excited about this program. But those are our two main areas in community solar. Like our green workforce training, we are focused on targeting low and moderate income residents to fill our gardens. That's also a part of the statute that was recently updated in 2024. So that's our main focus area. But yeah, that is community solar at Minneapolis Climate Action. If anyone has any questions about either side, either the community solar or the green workforce training, please let me or Diamond know. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Diamond and Elena. Elena, I apologize for not having your name on our intro slide. We are really glad to have you. Um, right off the bat, and I'm breaking my own rule. I generally like to save questions till the end of our speakers, but I'm curious of how many folks are subscribed to your community solar program right now.
Yeah, good question. That's a great question. So one of our gardens is a bit smaller than the other. Or the Emerge, the garden that's on top of Emerge Recycling. I want to say there's about 40 households subscribed to that garden. And then our other garden that's on top of North, I believe it's currently at around 40 households, but it will probably subscribe around like 50 once it's all fully subscribed. So yeah.
That's wonderful. You guys are doing some amazing work. Um, if we have other questions for Minneapolis Climate Action, let's save those to the end. I know I broke my own rule there, and we'll have a nice conversation. Um, thank you so much. With that, we're gonna jump into I believe we had Bharat next with the City of Minneapolis.
Yeah, thanks, Carly. And yeah, thanks, Climate Action, for kicking things off. Also, apologies, I do have a little bit of a cold, so if my voice kind of falters or cracks at all, that's the reason for that. So just quick heads up. Might drink some more water during this, but yeah. So thanks again for the invite to speak today. My name is Bharat Balyan, use he, him pronouns. With the City of Minneapolis Health Department on the sustainability team. And my role is serving as being a Resilience Hub project coordinator. Um, and there's a lot of different things that our team does in terms of sustainability work. I'll kind of get a brief overview, but then dive more specifically into my work around kind of that Resilience Hub development. So we have a sustainability team, it covers a wide range of type of areas of work. So one of them is kind of working with our buildings in the city. So whether it's residential, multifamily homes, all the way to commercial, we've got like folks working on benchmarking programs to see, how are the buildings doing and how can they operate better, more energy efficiently, reducing their emissions. Um, but then we also have folks working on, our more community engagement side of things. So we have our Minneapolis Green Zones, which are essentially environmental justice zones that were determined through a climate vulnerability assessment in the mid 2010s. And through those, we have two different resident councils that help advise the city on how to address EJ issues in those, again, key EJ areas in North and South Minneapolis. Excuse me. Yeah. And recently we actually hired a climate equity director to help oversee our not unveiling, but how do we launch our climate equity plan that we completed back in end of 2023. So kind of a cross-departmental, efforts to really address climate change at a large scale. So whether that's home weatherization and electrification, all the way to how do we improve our urban tree canopy. So it's a pretty extensive plan that we have to really address climate change very aggressively. And uh, we're just getting started on that work. So again, I could have a whole lecture about what that whole equity plan covers, but I'm going to kind of dive in a bit more into my work specifically. Um, and so just out of curiosity, just quick engagement. How many of you know what a resilience hub is or have heard of a resilience hub? And you can just do a quick like thumbs up react in the chat or hands up in the. Okay, we've got a few. Okay, cool. I always like to just get a get a lay of the land. But yeah, it is relatively I wouldn't say it's a new concept, but it's really reemerged as a really key intervention for really addressing climate justice in the last couple of years with all the large federal funding that came through, which unfortunately we're can't really rely on anymore, but it did really help kickstart a lot of great work. And so I do have a few slides that I do want to share that kind of help visually show what I'm talking about. It's not going to be in like the presenter mode. It's so you can kind of jump around some of these slides. But so really what a community resilience hub is, they're trusted community-led facilities that help enhance the well-being of marginalized communities before, during, and after disruptions. And they really serve a dual purpose. So that's enhancing the quality of life and social connection kind of on the day-to-day, but also acting as these critical facilities that help communities stay safe and respond to different disruptions that may come to them depending on where they live. And so really where this work is happening right now that I'm helping coordinate from the city side is these three locations in Minneapolis. And so we have three of them. In South Minneapolis, we have Sabathani Community Center. They are they've been around for decades. They're a Black-owned nonprofit that really focuses on, addressing a lot of different issues in the community, but they've really been a hub there for a community for decades. And fun fact, this used to be a middle school where Prince attended. So kind of a little fun fact for a little history for Sabathani. Our second location is the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Another, again, long-standing institution that serves the largest population of urban Native Americans in the country. And they have a great slew of programs and services all the way from youth all the way to their elders. And then in North Minneapolis, this is actually along Plymouth Avenue corridor, actually where Minneapolis Climate Action is based, one of the buildings. But this is kind of centered around the Minneapolis Public School Nutrition Center where they make all the meals for the school district. And so that's just kind of a overview. And then these are photos of some of these locations. So we've got Sabathani over here. And the American Indian Center, they actually just completed $30+ million capital campaign last year, and they reopened last May, and it's a beautiful new building, solar ready, all the great new technologies ready to be, ready for the next generation to serve their community. So really exciting to see this new building and what's possible with that. And then it's one of the public school buildings that's nearby in that Plymouth Avenue corridor. Um, and so wanted to show that what a resilience hub could look like. This is an example of what a community center hub looks like. Um, and you can see at the bottom, there are these 5 different categories. These are the five, we like to call them 5 pillars of resilience hubs that help to establish the framework. And you can see this is from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. They're the organization that helped kind of was the brainchild of this concept about back in 2013. And so we've got services and programming, communications, building and landscape, power systems, and operations. And these are not necessarily exhaustive list, and these just kind of give examples. So you've got, commercial kitchen, maybe you have food storage and distribution at your site. Perhaps you have emergency comms equipment or, computer lab with printing capabilities, building a landscape that can include, having a nice urban shades for heat mitigation. It could be EV charging. And the power systems can include solar power, battery backup systems, and other generators. And then operations can include things like hearing and visual support, and having local job training and support. And so just kind of gives you a broad overview of what you may possibly expect at a resilience hub. Um, and one thing that folks that may have heard of hubs, a lot of the time we think about hubs as being, oh, it's about emergencies and how does community respond to different disasters, which while that's important, it really only covers about 5% of the time, whether it's an extreme heat event or, air quality that's poor during the summer. We're only operating that time around 5%. Really, the focus is that 95% of the time it's steady state blue sky days. So what are we doing during that time to promote that community preparedness, well-being, economic vitality? Um, really helping people deal with the daily stressors. That's really where a lot of the day-to-day work is. And then the disruption and recovery, that's how do we deal with those acute shocks? So, again, like an extreme heat day or possibly an extreme precipitation day, power outage, et cetera. And so I do want to mention that as of right now, with these resilience hubs, we're working with Xcel Energy to actually develop solar and battery storage microgrids at these locations. So if the power does go out, these systems can kick in and really make sure that the community can go there during a power outage so that, whether it's to charge their medical devices, stay warm, stay cool, those type of things during those times. So that's going to be a real possibility. Currently, those construction projects should be completed in summer of 2026. So we're pretty excited about that as a technology piece. But really, while the technology piece is very cool, again, it's really about how do we create these social connections and what do we do to really, when disaster strikes, what have we done in the meantime to really build that, again, that community resilience aspect. Um, and so, and then right now, what we're doing with the project, we're doing a lot of community engagement around this work. So, Minneapolis Climate Action is actually one of those partners that's helping us do the engagement for the North Minneapolis Hub. And, it's been just about talking to folks about what does resilience mean to them, what's missing in their community, like, what's missing, but also what are the assets, like what are the strengths already, whether it's the day-to-day, like what kind of job trainings are available, what are the economic resources, and really we're trying to transition more into a activation space of saying, hey, like, this is happening, like, how do you want to get involved? How does community want to really help oversee the development of these hubs? Because again, the crux of this work is really around community leading the way. And the city's role is really more that coordination and providing resources and support. And so, yeah, we're well on our way of doing that, and we're continuing this engagement throughout this year, and really excited to see where things go as we eventually, we need some more funding, but would like to really get a robust, paying community members to really have an input on what's going to happen as these resilience hubs develop over time. And I think it's about 10 minutes there, so I'll just, yeah, I'll close with that.
Thank you so much, Bharat. Like I said, hold on to your questions. We'll get into discussion at the end. And I would like to finish up with Kathryn.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share information to join the coffee class chat this morning. I have my cup of coffee right by me and to start the day talking about the climate and sustainability. I'm a graduate of the University of Minnesota 2 times. The first as an undergraduate in 1969, a noted time of campus activism. And then later in 1985 for a graduate degree in social work. And at that time, I was an anti-nuclear activist with the social work professors as mentors. So the university has always been close to my activist academic heart. But I'm here today to share information about Elders Climate Action, whose mission is a good match for the definition of sustainability, and that is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Do you want to put up my slides, Carly?
Oh, yes. I apologize. Just give
Thank you.
me
Oh, no problem.
30,
I didn't think of it either.
just give me just a second here. I know you sent them to me. Yes. All right.
I'll just start talking. Our Elders Climate Action is a national organization, and we are a local chapter with a focus and a mission to encourage elders to inform, inspire, and engage others to take action on the climate crisis. And ECA is one of 4 projects of the broader Elders Action Network, whose mission is to address the critical governance, environment, and social issues of our time, the issues that are probably currently keeping a lot of us up at night. And at the national level, they offer and we draw from their informative classes, webinars, podcasts, and thought leaders. You can go to the next slide, Carly. Thank you. Here's the mission statement. Not that one, but the mission. Sorry. The mission, here's the mission statement of ECA and our shorter elevator speeches. In the face of climate change, we empower older adults to be good ancestors, working together to preserve our beautiful earth for future generations. So now the next slide. Just a closer look, we're a young organization launched nationally in 2014 and in 2020 by our Twin Cities chapter. It's an all-volunteer organization. It's a mostly national organization with chapters around the country, and they have partnered with more than 70 climate-related organizations. Next one, please. We believe that seniors are a natural resource, our society's longevity dividend. With our collective life experiences, resources, spiritual awareness, voting numbers, money, and more free time, elders are in a great position to make a difference and see things from a longer perspective. We remember the time before the weather pattern changed and the weather was less extreme. We are seasoned, strong, and organized. In addition, the ranks of retired baby boomers are increasing rapidly. They say by 2050, people over 65 are expected to account for about 22% of our country's population, up from 17% today. As Laura Carstensen says from the Stanford Center for Longevity, older adults are the only natural resource that is increasing on our planet. Next slide. So our chapter, as I mentioned, started right in the middle of right at the start of the pandemic in late 2020. And my favorite way to think about our work is that it provides a home base for individual and collective actions to work towards solutions. With an awareness of the science, the critical timeline, and the interconnectedness of these big issues today, we feel that our generation has a moral obligation to take responsibility. We were a part of creating the mess that we're in. So a few things just to know about our chapter. The first thing is that we have a strong commitment to nonpartisan approach to the climate issues. Secondly, we were inspired by the question posed by Jonas Salk, who asked, are we being good ancestors? We believe that taking the long view, or that seventh generation thinking, adds value and wisdom. And beyond the words in the mission statement, we believe elders are in a good position to make a difference and transform climate anxiety into action. One of our main motivations is the welfare of future generations, and focus on our own stage of generativity and leaving a legacy. One of my favorite quotes is, "I wouldn't change my grandchildren for the world, but I wish I could change the world for my grandchildren." Number 3, we focus on the known solutions that are already here, support ones that are evolving, and really celebrate the amazing people who are making these changes. We believe in the quote, "Hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up." It's all about action. And then number 4, since we're the first generation to feel the effects of climate change, and given our age, we are probably not going to witness the climate changes that are now baked into the forecast, but we're working hard to leave a legacy for a better future. Number 5, we believe strongly that collective action is the most effective way to force policy changes on the scale and timetable that will be necessary to protect all of us. We encourage people to join climate organizations to enhance their collective efforts to work at that level, to bring the me to the we of climate change work. Number 6, we work with a lot of coalitions, partnership, and allies. It's a really important part of the work. For example, we interact and overlap with our demographic cousins, Third Act, started by Bill McKibben, as well as CCL, MCEA, Fresh Energy, etc. We've always had a think globally, act locally focus, and we expect that that'll absolutely increase over the next few years. And then lastly, within our chapter, we support climate justice with all of the energy transitions, the youth initiatives, and the need to care for ourselves and other, and then of course throw in a little fun along the way. As James Hansen, the noted atmospheric scientist, said, "It's not just a climate problem, it's an energy problem, and it's a human rights problem." Next slide. Well, when we started our chapter in 2020, we brought a focus to our own state. And now after 4 years, we have many moving parts. Number 1, we have informative and motivating speakers at our monthly meetings. We did have Kate Nelson from the University of Minnesota Sustainability group here in October was our meeting speaker. We have a quarterly book club to sharpen our climate literacy. We have a monthly gathering to write postcards, to advocate or send thanks on climate topics. And then we also discuss skills and topics for letters to the editor. We have a 5-part class on climate called Understanding and Acting on Climate Change. Our newest subgroup is the Environmental Gardening Group, and has a focus on native and pollinator gardening expertise. We have 4 working teams that we consider our fossil-free energy sources, who focus on all of the diverse climate solutions. And a shout out to our legislative team, who are hard at work right now with a session, because they have ramped up their skills and strategies to advocate writing. They've given testimony, collaborated a lot with other climate coalitions. They also have set up many carefully planned visits with a bipartisan set of legislators, and we now proudly wear our green vests when we visit the Capitol. And then lastly, one of our newer traditions is giving a Good Ancestor Award in the month of September at our only in-person gathering monthly meeting to community-spirited people who represent good ancestors. And Grandparent Day is in September. Next slide. Some of the actions that we've been doing, this is nationally, but also locally. We always encourage 5 calls and the Climate Action Now app, which is a company whose mission is to give anyone with a phone anywhere in the world the ability to take meaningful actions on their phones in seconds, because it provides a personalized, well-researched, well-written message that you can send to political and business leaders. And there's the app for that. We also have been involved with the Costco campaign. Even though they're a pretty great company and business, they have a huge partnership with Citibank, which is one of the dirtiest funders of fossil fuels. So we're calling on Costco to revise their financial standing with Citibank. And it's still working. They've had some recent successes on that. And then Elders Promote the Vote was one of the big campaigns to get to, this particular one was interesting because they researched people who were self-described environmentalists, but they didn't vote. So that was who they targeted over the last election. And now they're doing it in Wisconsin. So next slide. The next slides, we can go through these real quick. These are just a visual of some of the things that we've been up to. This is a photo of our postcard writing gatherings, usually around a table. One of our members paints her postcards and puts their pictures of trees with watercolors, and then she puts look up on them, so bring some creativity. This is a photo from one of our climate classes from starting with like fear or misunderstanding or whatever, and moving people to action. This one was held at the Beckenwood Co-op along the Mississippi River. Another campaign that we were involved with was to see if we could get the large and humongous AARP to focus more on climate. They have been really, really behind the times on this. They've done a few articles in their newsletters, which go to 38 million people. So we were on a campaign to get in to talk to the AARP leader here in Minnesota, and we're basically stonewalled. This was last fall before the election, and I think they were cutting their edges. But we have hope because there's a new executive director at the national level for AARP. And actually, this is the one on moving money. This is our monthly protests that are led by Third Act that target those 4 banks. It's Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and what's the other one? Bank of America are the bad boys. So the next photo then is the AARP. We can skip over that one and go to the next one. This is from last week at the Rise and Repair Lobby Day. You can note the green vests. This afternoon, we're going to be showing up at the Zero Waste Lobby Day this afternoon. And the next slide is just a copy of our Good Ancestor Gathering with our 3 awardees this year. And then the last visual is it was just a really special evening at the home of one of our members, Bill McKibben. And you can see Larry Kraft, who's the representative from the St. Louis Park area. We're there to celebrate winter. This was, I think, around the Berkey time last year. And then another slide. This is what our most common recommendations when we're tabling or talking to other people when they say, well, what can I do? And this is kind of a concise way of staying informed. Kathryn Hayhoe is the big promoter of the best thing you can do is simply talk to other people, because people are not talking about climate as much as they should. The many ways we can reduce your carbon footprint, voting, becoming engaged by joining a group, align your investments, becoming more and more important, and then simply persist. And I have to share that our word of the year for our chapter is sisu. How many of you know what sisu denotes? Anybody? It's a Finnish word, and it that was put into play, especially after World War II, where they were pretty demolished, but it denotes inner strength, resilience, representing a deep-seated determination and the ability to persevere through adversity. So sisu is our word this year, and I think we're going to need it, right? And the next few years too. So thank you all so much. Oh, and this is our group. And I like to say we're elders, not bystanders. Climate action doesn't retire.
Thank you, Kathryn. This is amazing. The future is looking good. You guys are giving me hope. It's wonderful. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop my screen share, and now we can just move into questions and discussion. You don't need to raise your hand unless things get really chaotic. So you just feel free to unmute, or if you'd rather not speak, you can always put things in the chat, but I'm sure we have a lot of questions for our wonderful panelists here. Looks like we already have something in the chat. We'll see what that's about. Oh, someone shared the web page with their father, the Elders Climate Action. Love that.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
what questions do we have for our speakers?
I have a question, if I could just jump in for about Sabathany. I've heard that they're using network geothermal, and I'd love to know more about that and how that's working.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Catherine. So Sabathany is, again, being able to cover everything in my 10 minutes, but they are pursuing network geothermal as part of their kind of vision for being, you know, I think their motto is like going from worst to first. Like, asthma rates are one of the highest in the state around that area in Minneapolis. And so as part of that vision, going to a clean, electrified, HVAC system with network geothermal. They currently have pursued some different funding opportunities through the state legislature, but also like other like grants and foundations. I think currently they're on track to start construction later this spring, this early summer, pending some funding. They've actually had some federal funding, and there was some, shenanigans going on with that. But it seems like they were able to kind of find a window and get some of that funding through. So, but yeah, they're planning on doing that this year, and it's part of this vision of being this resilience hub. And their vision is to hopefully maybe make it potentially have a block like different blocks around Sabathany that can access that. So they're really thinking big about it. So that it's still on track as of latest updates I have about that. So.
Yeah, one of the our efforts now for people in our chapter who live in Minneapolis or St. Paul is working with UNIDOS on the pilot projects within, I think it's primarily Minneapolis. They're having house parties. We have 3 or 4 just in our neighborhood about the pilot projects for network geothermal and the block by block. So it is pretty exciting. And, the bottom line is it's going to save money. And I think that's a really good message to get across to people. Right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other organizations that are also considering geothermal. I know, as I mentioned, Minneapolis Climate Action, they work in the same building as Renewable Energy Partners, and they're actually thinking of doing network geothermal in that kind of resilience corridor I was talking about. So, um, and then the city of Minneapolis too, we're really trying to look into that as like a, municipally, maybe that's something we can look and start doing as part of our decarbonization. So, yeah, there's a lot of exciting movement around that. So it's great to see.
I'd like to say something, Carly. I'd like to get everyone's contact, and we'd hopefully have a site visit or a convening with the people that are involved on the call. I think it'd be great that everyone comes and stops by the site. We have a few programs going on, but yeah, Renewable Energy Partners is here, as well as Minneapolis Climate Action. And it's a great building. It's definitely advanced. I'd like to just invite everyone here. I can set up a date, but I'm just letting everyone know that I'd like to get everyone's contact.
Diamond, that's wonderful. If there's anyone here that does not want me to share their email, send me a private chat and I won't. Otherwise, I will send you the list of those who came today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. So it's wonderful. That's what this is all about. Let's continue connecting, continue working together. Amazing. We have a couple questions coming in the chat. Kathryn Nelson, our sustainability director here. Why do I call her Kathryn? Kate. If students are here, what would you like to do to further work with our guests? How could elders and youth work together? Any students on the call?
That is such a excellent question, and it really is an important one. I know it's part of our mission statement to work with elders. And, when we first started, we contacted Climate Gen, and then they had a change in directors. And, we didn't find that Velcro very much, but we pay a lot of attention to Climate Gen and the education work and the curriculum and and their bills this year. There's one to supplement climate justice. Our climate has been asked, I think, twice now to speak at the Breck School. We're going to do that April 2nd. They have an environmental day. Last year we did the keynote address, which is about how to talk to your friends about climate change. And then there were probably 50 people and 2 breakout sessions of kids. And we're going to do that again this year. Beyond that, I know we're also in the process of starting to replicate an event that was done in Northern California in our chapter there, because they took on intergenerational work as their key project last year. And I don't have a good description right now in my head, but basically they did a design model from Japan where you bring people together of ages and backgrounds and whatever, and you have a retreat where you have a very democratic process, and out of that emerges the consensus about things and just working together with different populations. So we're going to be replicating that up here sometime this year. Beyond that, some of our members have been working at the climate clubs or environmental clubs in high schools, bringing them to the Capitol. We just met the other day with, I think in the western suburbs, there's a smaller group of the high school climate leaders, and just getting to see what they're doing, how we as elders can support them. I know Third Act has been trying to connect with Sunrise, and I think they're largely based around the McAllister College area, and they've come to some of the protests, and some of the professors are encouraging that to happen. But we also are aware that as elders, when we work with the youth, we need to really listen, do more listening than talking, and also let them lead, is what we've learned big time.
And I'll say from the resilience hub community engagement perspective, a lot of our partner organizations have really been emphasizing that intergenerational engagement. So not just like focusing on like one age group particularly, but like really, leaning on the wisdom of the elders, but also, the energy and, what the youth represent in terms of the climate movement. So I've been very intentional about that, which I think has been really great to make sure that we're really making sure everybody feels included, especially kind of in that age, regarding to age and, what they can bring to the table in terms of like what they want to see at the Resilience Hub.
Yeah, kind of chiming off of that, something that Diamond and I didn't speak about is the Resiliency Hub work that Minneapolis Climate Action is doing. That's neither of us are really working in that area in Minneapolis Climate Action. That's actually our community engagement coordinator, Devon, who I'm sure Brought you've interacted with multiple times. But Diamond and I both attended a Resiliency Hub workshop that Devon was hosting here at the building, the RATC. And we had a lot of people from the community come, and it was really exciting. And we had some of that intergenerational work coming in. We had a grandma bring her grandchildren, and it was really exciting to see. And he was really active in the conversation. So yeah, it's very cool work.
In working with the youth that I do, I think it would be amazing if, Kathryn, they just heard your spiel of being able to use your numbers of your generation to really strongly influence change. I think right now people are feeling very stuck with their hands tied in this age group because they are 14, 15, 16. One of our scouts missed the ability to vote by one day and has been pretty bummed by the outcome of what he is seeing and what he's entering into his adulthood. Um, So this ability to reach out to this next generation who is going to be turning 18 and the youth who are currently 18 and up, um, the job training opportunities would be amazing. I know that they have to be 18 is what I heard. But there's a lot of spaces that I feel we need to be able to take action in and maybe not have to wait for the government or local and state institutions to support. So even if it's being able to plant some trees, start a garden at your middle or high school or elementary school, we have a lot of green space where we could reduce our carbon footprint by, having a community garden available, setting up a solar garden. Um, so I think this work is amazing, but that being able to partner with other age groups, um, I think would really help give some hope because, they've been on this planet for 14 years and they're walking into it at a time where our glaciers are melting and we have a high rate of species every year who are dying off, and it's a pretty big it's a pretty big thing to have on your shoulders as you become a functioning human on this planet.
I think that's so wise. That connection needs to be stronger. I know nationally there was a program called Seniors to Seniors, and it was the demographic senior paired up with a senior in high school to help them register to vote. And I know with Minnesota passed, was it in the last year or two, that law that if you were 16 and up, you could pre-register or something like that. And it took a little bit of that emphasis away because a lot of the schools were doing a lot of work around that. But I don't know the current status of that. But that's a great idea, great thought.
We do have another question in the chat that I am very curious to hear others' thoughts on. Cassidy asks us, question for Kathryn, but I think anyone could potentially weigh into this one. In your experience, how do we ensure that climate action remains a bipartisan issue rather than a divisive political one? Isn't that the question? It's a big one.
It's a challenge for us. I'm thinking that Minneapolis climate action, because of your location, that helps. We have members in an area that has more people of color, but we have largely been not very successful in that effort and always need to do more. I know this year we're ramping up our tabling at marketing events all over the city, but particularly in the neighborhoods with less income, because in those neighborhoods there is a lot of gardening, native gardening, and growing vegetable work being done, and it's really exciting. But beyond that, it continues to be a goal. How about the rest of you? How would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, working in Minneapolis, like it's a pretty agreeable environment for talking about this and working on it. Like it's most people are about it and understand it's an issue. But yeah, I think just generally speaking, just talking about it more like how to connect what's happening in the climate sphere to what matters to the person, right? Like I think that's at its core, you talk about Catherine Hayhoe, talk to people, like understand what oh, what's happening, like when they go to the recreation, like fishing, like what's going on with that, like the climate's impacting that, right? Um, I think when it comes down to the people level, that's kind of how you have to relate to them, right, as people and what matters. I will say politically, like, I mean, you got to talk about the economics, right, about it, like addressing climate change is an economic benefit. Really, that's what the data shows and everything, but obviously there's those section of people and politicians who will do everything they can to stop climate action because of lobbyists and the big oil, like they have such a large lobbying power, like obviously that's the reality we have to contend with. But despite that, there's still a lot of great work being done locally and statewide. And, it's times like this where like just talking to people and like really showing what matters. I think that's really where this energy comes. And again, the focus on community resilience with the resilience hubs, like we're really shifting that conversation of power to the community rather than the top-down approach. Um, I think that's going to be vital as we move forward.
Yeah, I know there's, I think, a really good awareness in the BIPOC community about climate, more so than even among the rest of us. And I know our chapter didn't have a large role, but we were certainly paying attention, bringing in speakers about HERC, the incinerator, which has a positive outcome, and then the Phillips neighborhood, two neighborhoods that were really beset with pollution. And so I think focusing on health issues and that kind of thing can really bring in connections with the BIPOC community for sure.
I think at least at MCA, and Diamond, feel free to chime in here whenever. The offerings that we, or the programs that we offer, are a really good door opener to climate action. I think there are a lot of reasons why people would like to be involved with our green workforce trainings and with community solar that really don't have anything to do with the climate. People are looking for jobs and opportunities to work. And it also really helps when we can offer stipends to our students. And also with community solar, like I mentioned earlier, if you just want to save energy or save money on your energy bills, that is a huge reason why you would want to be a part of a community solar garden. So I think that people can get involved in climate action without having climate action be their number one priority, at least through programming with MCA, which I think then once people are involved, it's easy to speak to them about those kinds of topics. So we're really introducing climate without any type of partisanship because they're jumping into those opportunities for many different reasons. Yeah.
I've really been trying to drive home just speaking after Elena, um, kind of the cost of relating the cost of climate action in dollars for people. And I think that's very helpful, right? We're paying for plastic packaging, which we then pay to have to recycle. So trying to get them to think about it through that ideology, through that thought process versus saying whether this is about a one political leaning or the other. Just that part of, hey, you're paying for the packaging, you're paying to have to recycle it or throw your trash away. What are some other strategies that we can use? What are some cleaners where you can make your own laundry soap at home? Buy in bulk. So vinegar and baking soda. I think we through our modern times have gotten so far away from being able um, to know how to do things for ourselves that we're reliant on these corporations that then don't have to change their packaging, and then we end up having to deal with the trash. I really would like to see if there is a way that we could put more pressure on companies that do make plastics to make it be just one uniform formula that our plastic is derived from. So that way, all of these recycling groups can effectively know how to recycle safely this plastic or our aluminum. So rather than focus so much on branding, can the focus be um, how to make these products actually be sustainable and recycling be purposeful versus where it currently is. It's been very eye-opening to speak to the youth about, you know, why you want to use your own bag or bring your own bag, teaching them how to sew and teaching them how to sew a cloth bag, um, because that plastic bag eventually ends up in the ocean because we don't have enough availability to really recycle it in the United States. it was very eye-opening for them to learn that the United States ships their garbage overseas, and that garbage then ends up polluting and causing a lot of disasters in another country. For that, just that whole conversation was very eye-opening for them to actually have them think about, okay, so I do have to bring this bag with me. That is a small thing that I can do, but it is reducing the number of plastic bags that might end up getting shipped to someone else's backyard. Um, but having them think about how this affects people's money, your own pocketbook, I think, is a good way to not talk about it one political way or another, but just having them think on their own, how it impacts themselves is one good thing.
Yeah, I think often we think about our carbon footprint and the guilt with all of that, and how hard it is. It's like we have to give up stuff, when really, it all needs to be reframed that, we're heading towards more abundance and a more fair and a more just society. And then it's going to be cheaper, I mean, sun and wind, if we could just get our arms around that to the maximum, we'd be okay.
To
I,
kind of,
oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Diamond. Go ahead.
Try to piggyback off of what Elena was saying with us offering the green career trainings. We try to define our green careers as careers that improve energy use and efficiency, reduce and limit greenhouse gases, reduce waste and pollution, reduce environmental injustices or hazards, protect and restore ecosystems, help build communities and buildings and environments to adapt to climate change. And so we try to incorporate all those definitions into each of our trainings. So we have the hemp creek, which is our newest one, where they're using hemp and mixing lime and creating the installation of a building, which is weatherproof. It's mold resistant, fire resistant, water resistant, and other good factors of using hemp. We've got the solar training installation where we're, of course, that's improving energy use and not and trying to lessen the carbon footprint as far as our energy bill and not using so many appliances or things of that nature. And we have the HVAC, which is helping with air conditioning, heating and cooling of a system, and the electrical work, which is kind of more so, I guess, I don't know. It's just we have an electrical training going on where we're trying to get people to be in the electrical field, encouraging women as well. So we have some green careers that we're trying to throw out there where people are also getting paid to do these trainings, but it's all going to relate to a green pathway.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Diamond. Well, I hate to have to cut this conversation. Thank you to our speakers and to everyone here. This really made me feel hopeful this morning, and I hope everyone else here got a little dose of hope to keep us moving in a uncertain and challenging time. So thank you all so much for your work, for dedicating your time to this, for being here to listen and learn, and share. I do want to just very, very quickly show that we have one more coffee chat coming up this semester. Here we go. And it's going to be on the connections between sustainability and art. And we're going to have one of our incredible art faculty, and I believe she's going to um, also bring in some of her students to talk about their work, talk about how they use resources, um, and how they think about creation in a way that is sustainable. I think this is going to be a really fun one. So that's coming up on April 3rd, so not too far from now. I just put our website in the chat there. You can register there. So April 3rd, again, 10 to 11 a.m. Hope to see some of you there. And with that, we will close out. Thank you all so much for being here and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thanks
Of
so much, Carly.
course. Thank you all.
Take care.